Service. He's going to talk about some retention and recruitment for employees and hopefully some ways that we can utilize some things to try to keep employees in our office and not have as much turnover. So with that, I'll give it to Tom.
Thank you. For the next 45 minutes, I'm hoping you will engage in audience participation. Because if you have to listen to me for the next 45, this is going to go really badly. So I do want you to yell out. I do want you to use your best outside voice when you have an answer. And I'm not here to make fun of soil conservation districts. I'm not here to make fun of your supervisors. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help us understand what's going well and help us move toward a better system in the future. So I will make fun of myself occasionally, and I will actually invite some of our staff to make fun of me because I don't know everything about recruitment and retention. I can tell you that right now. It's a conversation that many people are having. We're part of the National Association of State Foresters, and with all the money that's coming through infrastructure, IIJA, IRL, the biggest conversation we continue to have is who is going to implement all these projects? Who is going to put the money on the ground? It's a huge problem for state foresters to recruit and to retain staff. And I will tell you, in North Dakota, this isn't the place where foresters go to practice forestry. It's just not a career path that most foresters graduating from forestry school aspire to go to North Dakota practice forestry. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. Again, audience participation. I also, when Kelly and I talk about this, I'm like, nobody ever asks me to talk about trees anymore, fun stuff. Why recruitment and retention? So I made this one for me. This may not be fun for you. On every slide, there's a native tree of North Dakota, native tree species. So if you take a piece of paper out and you scribble down what you think it is, if you get them all right, I brought fabulous prizes. There's one dog bowl up here, so that one's up for grabs. There's a couple of gliders. If you get them all right, take a prize. Okay, and I'll give you a couple of hints because the pictures aren't spectacular, and I apologize for that one. I'll give you a really strong hint on the first slide. This is not a quacking aspen. Please don't write down quacking anywhere. Occasionally we get a grant application in our community forestry program, and somebody mentioned they want to plant quacking aspen in their community. So it's not quacking aspen. That's your hint for the first one. So here we go. So I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and again, the reason I'm asking you these questions is because we're going to move to some answers. How many employees are here over 25 years? I know there's a couple. 1, 2, awesome. Between 10 and 25? A few more, awesome. Less than 10. Most of you. Less than 1. Okay. I want to hear from the newest employees most often. So now I know who you are. I'm going to point toward you. Okay. So how'd you hear about the job? For me, when I came to the North Dakota Forest Service, I was living in beautiful mountainous Colorado. That was my goal, to live in Colorado or Wyoming out of forestry school. I grew up in the East. I went to school in the East. I wanted to live in the West. So I wanted to live in a log cabin in Wyoming and practice forestry and never have to talk to people. That was the goal. And actually I did that for a little while. It was awesome. And then I met a woman from North Dakota. We were living in the mountains of Colorado, and I heard about a job in Walhalla, North Dakota. And at that time, there was no internet. There was none of that fun stuff. So I actually had traveled through. I left a resume, and one of the people in the office sent me the job announcement. We drove from beautiful Colorado to icy cold, nasty Walhalla, North Dakota in October of 1991. In the interview, and my wife at the time cried all the way to South Dakota after the interview. Did not want to come to North Dakota at all, which is a problem for some of us. After that job, I was offered it. We moved to North Dakota, expecting wife, 2 dogs, 2 horses, 3 vehicles. So I was not recruited at all. I recruited myself. And I was not necessarily retained either. I guess I retained myself as well. So I've been with the agency since 1991 in 3 communities. I've had 6 jobs, and this is my last, I promise. So I have, and I've made a number of mistakes. So how did you hear about the job that you're currently in the Soil Conservation District? Anybody? How was it advertised? How did you hear about it? Word of mouth. Most commonly, most often, there was no job announcement in the paper. Anybody see a job announcement in the paper? Indeed. Oh, okay. We're using technology. Awesome. Any other ways people heard about the job? Facebook. Facebook. Awesome. Social media. Fantastic. So once you heard about the job, how much did you know about the job? Or how much did you think you knew about the job? Did you know what a soil conservation district was? Did you know what they did? Kind of, maybe, no. I see head shaking. Okay, so what appealed to you most about the job? What was it that you thought the job was and the reason that you thought you'd like to do it? Anybody? Say that again? We're gonna get to be outside, working outside, okay. I see a couple heads nodding. Being related to agriculture, okay, good one. Anything else? So before you applied for the job, did you talk to anybody? Did you visit about the job to get more information? Was there somebody available to you? Was there a contact person? I see a couple heads shaking, yes, a couple heads nodding, yes. There was somebody you talked to from the office? Okay. Anybody talk to an adjacent soil conservation district? You did, okay. A good adjacent soil conservation district? Oh, was it no, a bad soil conservation district? Okay. Okay, so why did you apply for the job? Ultimately, you saw the job announcement. You maybe understood a little bit about it. Agriculture, you have to be outside. Why did you apply for the job? The best opportunity or a better opportunity than where you were? Way better opportunity. Just out of curiosity, where were you? Oh. Okay, the dark side. So that's different. You came from the dark side to the good side. Yeah, yeah, interesting. Okay, so way better opportunity. Really? Awesome. That's good to hear. So how did you apply for the job? Was it a written application? Was it online? Did you sign something in blood? Did you throw your name in the hat? How did you apply for the job? You were asked to do the job. So somebody came to get you. One of the soil conservation district supervisors came to direct you or came to get you. Okay, you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, probably. So, okay. Anybody else? What was your interview? How many of you had interviews? How many interviewed? Most of you, fantastic. What was your interview like? And who was there? It was intimidating how? Were all the district supervisors there? All of them sitting around the table? All a bunch of old white guys looking at you? Yeah. Yeah, that'd be weird. How was your interview? What kind of questions did they ask you? Okay, agriculture experience, that makes sense.
Equipment.
What equipment? That'd be a good one. Awesome. Really? That's a great one. Fantastic. Ooh. How well do you work? Did everyone hear that one? How well do you work with others? Is that helpful? Yeah. We used to ask, actually, we had a player manager years ago ask what your favorite cereal was during the interview process. I have no idea. He really felt like that was a character thing. You know a lot about a prospective employee by asking him what breakfast cereal they eat. We don't ask that anymore, thankfully. Don't even think about it back there in the forestry service table. Okay, so how do you think you were selected? You were the only option. You were the best option then, right? Don't say only. I was too. I was so proud of myself when I got selected for the district technician in Walhalla. For years, I was like, I killed that interview. Years later, I find out I was the only applicant. That was totally sold. Absolutely. I guess I was the best at it as well. Do you think there was a numeric process? Do you think they graded you through the interview process, and you think they picked you as the highest, most qualified, best candidate? Yes? Okay, we're hoping that. Good. So recruitment challenges. As we talk about recruiting for employees, and we're going to talk about recruiting and retaining, one of the biggest challenges is how to get the word out. And we heard Indeed, we heard Facebook, we heard word of mouth. Those are challenges. And in today's world, it is even more difficult to get the word out about jobs. And second bullet is how to sell the job. Do you think the information that you received or that you saw or your understanding of the knowledge was all encompassing? Do you think it was a good assessment? Do you think you had a really good feeling for what you'd be doing when you joined the Soil Conservation District or your current job? Not so much. I think we could do better at that. Yeah, I think most of us understand and recognize that we could sell the job a lot better. We could also sell the communities. How many of you moved to the community to take the job? One person moved to that community. Where'd you move from? Oh, okay. We won't get into that outside. You moved there for the job though. Okay, are you happy you did that? Oh God, we're not talking to her at all anymore. So the community is important. We're going to talk about that a little bit later with retention. Well, and the next fourth one down is developing a fair and biased process for selecting a candidate. We use a numeric process. It's painful. It's long. Really, it's based on an interview or original screening process, an interview process, and oftentimes a presentation. And it's all numeric based. So when we get to the end, the highest numerical candidate, the person that scored the highest, is generally one we. Did you use that? Did your supervisors use that when they picked you? Maybe a little bit of a mystery, isn't it? Okay. Right. As a recruiter, and this is something we struggle with, and I know soil conservation districts do as well. Salary. It's something we talk about more. Salaries are extremely competitive. We used to think that the smaller remote communities had an advantage because there was less competition. There's also less people to draw from. These days, larger communities have every bit as much of a struggle as small communities. Soil conservation districts, most of them aren't wealthy. But a fairly good statement, fairly accurate, yeah. You're competing in the same office with, well, you're competing in the community with everybody else that's hiring. Competing in your office with the federal system, and generally you probably don't compete, or soil conservation don't compete all that well. You know what your fringe benefit dollar value is? Do you know what your fringe benefits are worth? Was that ever stated to you? Anybody talk about that during the actual hiring process? Did you talk about your fringe benefits?
We put it in our,
Listen, yell it.
we put it in our job post this year, how much it was actually, what is that, dollar amount?
Do you think it helped?
I don't know. I mean, we still ended up, I mean, I wasn't there for the interviews, but I think they interviewed for each application. So I was hoping it would intrigue people more to say, hey, my salary is actually this.
How many people, just show of hands, you don't have to put them up right now. How many of you know what your fringe benefit worth? Most of you do now. Okay. Did you know that when you applied? Some of you did, some of you didn't. Okay. And then the last bullet, this is something that we spend a fair amount of time with, and I think it's important. Not only are we recruiting a person that wants to come work for us, but we're considering the organization, we're considering the office, we're considering that we work in teams and programs, how that person will fit with all of that. And you have a dynamic that's a little bit unique. You work in an office with your NRCS partners, you work with FSA, you work with nonprofits, you work with producers, you work with all those folks. Getting a person that just wants to come to work is good. Getting a person that can do all of that is better, and it's a challenge.
Tom, we've got a Zoom comment as well.
Yep.
The comment is that it's a challenge in small communities, because kids leave to go off to college and then they, never come back.
Never? Except for Christmas.
Yeah.
Except for Christmas and Thanksgiving. Okay, so your first day, you took the job, you think you knew what it was, you showed up for the job. Did you know immediately who your direct supervisor was? Was that fairly obvious to you? You had a direct supervisor that was identified. Good. You still know who they are? Good. Okay, that's fantastic. Who provided you with orientation? Mike, how was your orientation?
Offer my perspective on my orientation to the North Dakota Forest Service 20 years ago. I was the state first forest health. Got to my office early with my supervisor. He literally came to my door with a dolly and a computer and a 3-ring binder called the North Dakota Forest Service orientation manual. It was completely useless. And he basically dropped it off, I'll have at it. And he said, I'll call you next week. And I proceeded to spend the next 6 months playing a lot of Excel. They didn't have YouTube back then. So, but we were all bad.
True story. I was in Botno at the time. I had never had a forest health specialist underneath me before. I didn't really know what Mike was supposed to be doing. Neither did he. And I don't think I even had a phone set up for you. He was a new employee on the campus. We had never done that before. We didn't even have a system set up for him. Not a model system, not the best case scenario. So thank you for sharing that. How was your orientation? Can anybody describe what orientation was like for you? Anybody willing? I see you smiling right there. Loud as you can.
Very first day was like, no, have fun. And it was, so it was figure out what things are, figure out how you're gonna make everything happen. And but the nice thing is my predecessor did put together a calendar. And so every month there's a to-do. And so this was basically getting into it. And but previous work, it's nice enough to sit down and say, okay, this is what we did in our pre-sales. I started in June. And so unfortunately on site, those were not put into QuickBooks. So my very first thing was I just put all sales in QuickBooks. That was my very first.
So it's safe to say you relied on your peers and your predecessors as opposed to your supervisor. Okay. Anybody else have similar or different? That's almost as bad as Mike's orientation. Almost as bad. Anybody else? Anybody have a really great orientation that they want to share? Please.
I had a manager that was in our district month before back, tell me what Sam, and so she was on call to come back and kind of show me things. So it was
Ideal situation to have the overlap like that. Anybody else had overlap with there's some of that. Fantastic. That is ideal. Super. So where did you go to with questions as you started to get through your first day, started to have an understanding of, oh my God, what have I done? Who did you start to ask questions? Or maybe you felt really comfortable and really good. Who would you go to with questions? Your peers, your supervisors, district supervisors, who would you go for questions? This table over here has been really quiet. Who'd you go for questions? Did you go outside the district? Did you know that there was a bunch of people that are doing almost exactly the same job as you across the entire state of North Dakota? No? No question. You didn't have any questions. Fantastic. Okay. So did anybody go outside the district? Because I know the benefit of this in the system is that oftentimes we get a person that's a couple days old and they show up here and they go, oh my goodness, you know, there's all these people out here that are resources for me. Did you go outside your district? Did you understand or recognize? You did. Not Rhonda. Yeah, she's no help at all. I'm teasing. Rhonda's been fantastic in many districts, so that's a good resource. Good job there.
So I got Sharon and Wilson time. The clerk on that. Those are findings.
So I hope everybody caught that. The first one was Scott Hochhalter, the State Soil Conservation Committee Director. And he worked directly with Soil Conservation District supervisors and employees. So, fantastic. Anybody else outside the district? So at the end of the first week, was the job what you thought it was? Did you have one of those moments? You're going, oh my goodness, what have I done? Yes. Was it exactly what you thought it was? Not really. Was it better than you thought? Anybody have, oh my God, this is the greatest, maybe the greatest thing ever.
I just gotta add in a kinder. I love it. It was not what I thought it was, but I always loved it.
That's good to hear. Fantastic. Thank you. An unpaid advertisement. for soil conservation. I don't think it's a paid advertisement. Shoot, you know what? I apologize. I've been remiss. Second tree here, native pine of North Dakota. Probably the absolutely the most predominant pine in North Dakota. I am sorry. This one is native to parts of North Dakota, grows on north facing slopes. We plant it in communities and it usually doesn't do really well on a sun-baked lawn with grass all the way around it. And then this one is the state tree of North Dakota. Anybody gets it, and by the way, if the North Dakota Forest Service table gets any of these wrong, they will make a sizable donation to the NDCPEA. Okay, second week and beyond. This tree is native to North Dakota as well. It's the only oak in North Dakota. So as you start to progress, again, it was the job what you would let to believe it would be. You're learning more. You're understanding that there's other people out there that are doing the same job as you. As you're progressing through the season and through the year, you understand that the job changes throughout the year. There's differences between January and June, obviously, especially if you're district vacation. So were there opportunities for you for salary increases, and how were those determined? You folks get an annual salary increase. Most people, yes. You know how they're determined? Anybody? Kelly laughed behind me.
They like to stick with round dollar amounts, and it's just kind of well, before a few years ago, it was a whim of what they would give me, just
A whim,
whatever.
number out of the air.
Yeah, pretty much, usually $1. Since we hired on another technician, we try to keep up with inflation now at least. So.
Anybody else know how their salary? Yep, go. Burley County base schedule.
So whatever the other county employees need, and their rate based on that are all because we used to like salaries before. I mean, you got 4 farmers. Arguing, do you give them $1? Do you give them $2? This just gives them a number to go off.
So there's a foundational piece that you follow. Anybody else do that, or is there another system? For market, a scale for market, kind of like step increases from the GS level. Okay, so they factored in performance. Okay, so if you did really, really well, you might get a little more. Conversely, if you didn't do so very well, you might not get so much at all. Okay, all honest.
We got a Zoom. They have an annual review and they check with the county, and then the merit is done annually. And another comment of flexibility in our office is huge with having kids. The pay, hours, and benefits were a big reason as well to come to this job.
Fantastic. Is there an open, honest, two-way communication? Do you have a performance review annually? Is there a conversation you have annually about performance, your performance specifically? Most heads nodding, excellent. Are there professional development opportunities? I'm not talking about just going to a training session. I'm talking about continued education. There's some specialized courses in leadership, communication, things like that. Do you have those opportunities? Most heads nodding. That's good to hear. And then training. Everybody goes to training, right? Everybody's saying that together. Okay, good. Yes.
Benefit I will get out of it. Or whatever I feel is beneficial to me and my job.
Do you justify it? Explain why you think you need it, and they'll give you the thumbs up. Okay. So, is there recognition for excellent performance in your district? You get recognized for that? Those of you that are performing excellently? You get recognized, not so much? Get a warm fuzzy feeling? Okay. And then conflict resolution. Anybody ever have any conflict in their office? Tina's laughing at me. Anybody ever have any conflict with your federal partners or between staff people or your supervisors? Is there an opportunity for conflict resolution? Do you know where to go for conflict resolution? Or you just go home and kick the dog or the cat? I kicked the cat when it was still alive. Okay, so we did our tree. This tree is the lesser known pine in North Dakota. Only about 300 acres in southwestern North Dakota on the west side of the Missouri River. So here's where I really want to know. And I already got an answer in one place. Why are you still here or there? Why are you still with the Soil Conservation District? What you love, say it again loud, Betty. You love your job. Anybody else love their job? A couple people love their job. That's why you're there. Okay. Why else are you there? Flexibility. Explain that.
Time flexibility.
Okay.
You gather it all up in the spring and then you got the whole rest of the year to, you can fill the rest of that.
Gotcha. Anybody else? Why are you still there? What's the best part of your job? What's the very best part of your job? What's the part that I know Betty likes to talk to people. He enjoys that part. What's the very best part of your job? North Dakota Forest Service staff in the back are being really quiet too. You're welcome to yell out. I know you all love working with Mike and I. Everybody hear that? Thank you. Yes.
I guess the best thing I like to do, I'm working on people. Maybe back 10 years, 10, 20.
Sense of accomplishment, sense of actually having an impact. Hopefully.
I like when producers come in and want to come in and talk to you. So you've made a relationship with them that they've crossed. So when they come into the office, they want to sit down and 2 hours later, they're finally walking out of your office. But that's what I guess I enjoy, whether we're talking about conservation or whatever we're talking about, but I think that's a big part of the job.
Relationships.
Yeah.
Yep. And being trusted. How about for clerks and managers? What's the best part of your job?
One of the Zoom people says outreach.
Outreach to the public, that's the part. Clerks and managers, I'm looking at you folks. It's the best part. Working with the watershed coordinators? Yeah, I haven't heard that one yet. Don't record that. Please pause the record right there. Okay, so what's the not so wonderful part of your job? What's the part that you just absolutely?
January and February.
January and February, why? There's just not much to do. Okay, boring. Okay. Other parts? Sorry. Taxes, we don't like taxes. Okay. Anything else we hate doing?
Grant reporting.
Grant reporting. You didn't hear that, Sarah. Boarding reporting. Okay. And what's that? Hiring people, that's the problem. That's the not fun part. Interesting.
Zoom comment is fighting with the board. Fighting with the board to get a part-time person. They think one person can do everything.
The right person. Say that one louder.
All departments.
Is that a challenge for more than one person? A little bit like herding cats, sometimes getting everybody together in one place and headed the same or similar direction. Oh, staying on task during meetings. Anybody ever had that problem? You have an agenda and sometimes it gets headed in a direction or 12 directions. Yeah, that can be a challenge, absolutely. So not to belabor this, what's your best day at work? Anybody got a bad day at work? Friday? I really did not expect that. I thought here's the day you get to be outside all day long and not be in the office. Okay, thank you for your honesty. I do appreciate that. Didn't expect it. Native small tree to North Dakota. This one is also called a strong hint because most of you may not have any relationship with this tree. It's also called ironwood. So give me the other name if you would. Okay, so recruitment challenges, broad-based, and these are things you all know. These are things that have been in the news. These are things we're all struggling with in North Dakota, especially, but across the nation with a low unemployment rate. We've got positions open right now that have been open for over a year. We just don't have qualified candidates that are interested in going to those locations. And again, North Dakota is not the place where everybody wants to practice forestry. Knowing that, we relaxed our minimum qualifications. Unlike a lot of other state forestry agencies, they still want a certified forester. We will take an enologist, we'll take a wildlife biologist, we'll take a range person. We can teach them forestry. It's really not that tough. So we have relaxed, but low unemployment rates are wonderful for the nation, but they work against some of us as we're trying to recruit. And then higher wages. The story has always been ours as a signing bonus, and you can make $50 an hour at McDonald's, and there's people that want to do that kind of work. Generally, the type of people that come to work for soil conservation districts are also attracted to that kind of work. They want to be outdoors, they want to be ag related, they want to make a difference on the ground. So higher wages, definitely. We're all struggling to be competitive. How many of you are working remotely or have an opportunity to work remotely with your soil conservation district? A couple people, few people. Good. Is that a question that more and more people are asking these days for the opportunity? It's obviously a thing. During the did everybody hear that? The negative thing is when you're working from home, you don't get snow days. That's exactly right. Is any soil conservation district actually employing a person that's living in another state or in another county? Generally not. Well, a couple over here. Okay. During the pandemic, state of Washington, I believe, State Forestry Agency of Washington, excuse me, had staff in 9 different states. It was a bit of a challenge. They had to establish 4 times where people were at work. They were working literally from, I believe it was Florida all the way to Hawaii. So there's a lot of expectation. There's a lot of people that don't want to come to an office anymore. And so we're competing with that. Work-life balance, I used to call it balance, but balance means that it's balanced perfectly. More of an equilibrium. You mentioned this, Sue, that opportunity for flexibility. Is work-life balance important to you, or work-life equilibrium? Yeah, the days of people that want to come in and work 60, 80 hours every week after week. Our former state forester was one of those people, just supremely dedicated to what he did. He was the state forester in Minnesota. He worked a tremendous amount, but he missed some things too. He mentioned that as he was retiring, that he actually missed some things that were associated with his family. And I think there was a little bit of regret there. We find that people want that balance. It's important to them, and as they're looking at jobs, that factors in. I have no idea why I put priorities down there, so I'm not even going to talk about it. Longevity, people are changing jobs quicker. we've got some people in the room that have been around 25 years or so. That's going to happen more and more rarely in the future. You're going to see a continuation of people moving jobs to find jobs that they want. And then upward progression. This one is really a difficult one for you because many people come into an organization. What they want is the opportunity to progress. They want to be able to go up through an organization, maybe at some point take a leadership role. How much progression do most soil conservation districts have? Almost zero. Yeah, very little. So there isn't a path up. There isn't a way to get to the next level. There isn't the lead, so to speak. And that's really tough when you're recruiting the workforce. All right, this species, how are we doing for time?
6 minutes.
Oh, 6 minutes. We're not gonna make it. That's okay. I want to leave time for the next session. This one is a native shrub to Western North Dakota. When you grind up the leaves, it kind of smells, excuse me, like cat pee. It is in the tech guide for certain soils as well. So managing for employee retention, going that direction now. The first bullet is a total duh. It's far more efficient to retain a quality employee than it is to recruit, train. Went through this with the Western Forestry Leadership Coalition director, who really felt like her top employees were making enough money that she wouldn't be able to pay them anymore. They should just go find other jobs. We talked at length over the course of years, and she finally realized that she's way ahead by adding some salary to people that are excellent performers than she is to go try and find a person or people who can do the job as well as, even half as well as the people she has. This is really important. And you'll resonate, or some of these will resonate with you. The 5 factors is job satisfaction. Obviously, there's more than this, but people want to be respected at work. That's really important. And hopefully most of you are or do. Compensation pay is a factor. If they stay, trust, people want to be trusted. Job security, most of us have that in this day and age. That's important to a certain person. And then obviously, as you are maybe going into soil conservation or into ag in general, you have a degree or you want to practice a degree, you want to be able to do something that you're good at and something that maybe you went to school for. So quickly, why employees leave. The tree here is also known as Manitoba maple. If you do the math here, I'm feeling disrespected is 57% and low pay 3%. Obviously, that's over 100%. When people left, they ticked off the boxes of the reasons, plural, why they left. So employee dissatisfaction, obviously, you're just unhappy, you wind up leaving. People leave for better alternatives. Ever happened to soil conservation districts? You go to the NRCS, you go to wherever pays you more. So there's better alternatives, and low pay is a factor there. No opportunities for advancement. We talked about that. Benefits. Plan change means that maybe you want to start a family, you're going to move. Maybe your significant other, once they get a raise or they get to a certain income level, you decide not to work. So there's lots of reasons why people leave. Maybe you plan on retiring someday, Betty, or you have a negative experience. And this one's really interesting. Oftentimes, people will leave based on a negative experience, one negative experience. They just get pissed. Something happens, they have an altercation, there's an incident, and they just decide that I'm not doing this anymore. And in this day and age, there's plenty of jobs out there that just go find something, have a job. And then obviously there's a lot of other factors there that we talked about. So very quickly, why employees stay. Tree here is a native tree, also to North Dakota. It's a large tree. Woodworkers love working with the wood for this one. The leaves are heart-shaped. Embedded. Embedded means that an employee feels like they're part of the community. It's why I asked if people move to communities to take a job. If you're embedded within the community, you're embedded socially, you're embedded within the office and with the office setting with your partners, you're more likely to stay. That's really, really important. Feeling part of something. If you've got an employee that is responsive to the needs, they feel like they care about you, absolutely leave them. Recognition, career letters, benefits package. A minute. Okay. This is not the invasive one. This is actually one of the two scaled, this is the native of the two scaled conifers in North Dakota. It's primarily in western North Dakota. So retention practices, all of these things that we talked about, all the reasons why people stay, these are extremely important to staff. They're extremely important as an individual or as an entity that's hiring. These are things you need to continue to consider. Oftentimes the supervision and the relationship the supervisor has with the employee is a deciding factor as to why a person stays. And last, okay, how to initiate change, really having conversations. It's very difficult sometimes to change your supervisors if you don't feel comfortable with any of the top 3 bullets. At the very least, as you exit a position, take the time to talk about what went well, what didn't go well. You owe it to the next person in line to really talk about the environment and the reasons you left. That may be the reason that they're having trouble recruiting. It may be the reason that there's been a history of people leaving the Soil Conservation District. There's 2 hazels in North Dakota. This is not the American. And here is your answers. Anybody that got them all right, please come up and grab a prize. Anybody that didn't, if there's any left over, you can take one anyways. We don't have time for questions. I apologize. I'm going to make the presentation available if you want it. Again, I'm not the end all be all on recruitment and retention, but I really enjoyed being here with you. I remember setting up first Soil Conservation District tree promotion meetings back in the early 90s. I'm absolutely delighted with how you and where you progressed to. I actually like the title too. I thought when I saw dam, I thought we were cursing about the weather. I didn't realize that that was the title. So congratulations, and I'm